Hello everyone, welcome back to the Token Minds series. Today we are exploring one of the most important developments in Web3, the rise of real-world asset tokenization, and how Cardano Midnight enables a version of tokenization that finally meets the expectations of regulators, institutions, and serious financial operators. Over the last few years, the industry has been trying to bring real financial assets on-chain, but every time enterprises run a pilot, they hit the same barriers: too much transparency, too much exposure, and too many risks created by the design of public blockchains. So, in today's video, we are going to break down the core challenges, show why traditional chains are built for regulated assets, explain how Midnight solved this at the architectural level, and demonstrate how Token Minds uses Midnight inside our TMX tokenized platform to deliver end-to-end compliant RWA workflows. Let's get started. Tokenizing real-world assets requires more than putting a representation of an asset on a public chain. It requires confidentiality, regulated workflows, and consistent rule enforcement. Mainnet was created specifically to support this type of high-trust, compliance-focused environment. It allows institutions to enjoy the benefits of blockchain, like automation, auditability, and programmability, without exposing sensitive data. When institutions test RWA tokenization on traditional blockchains, the first reaction is always the same: something doesn't feel right. And it's because the blockchain environment doesn't match the way financial systems actually operate. Real world assets involve private investors, private agreements, jurisdiction specific rules, and sensitive internal processes. Public chains expose all of that, and that exposure immediately blocks adoption. Industry headlines make the situation clear. Regulators consistently highlight that tokenization introduces real risks when executed and architectures that reveal too much information. They don't reject blockchain, they reject public exposure of sensitive financial data because this exposure can create legal issues, competitive disadvantages, and systemic risks. Institutions see this and hesitate, not because the tokenization is flawed, but because the underlying infrastructure isn't built for regulated finance. Transparency is great when you're building DeFi or community apps, but for regulated financial products, it becomes a liability. Public chains reveal every transfer, every counterparty, every rule, and every compliance action. No traditional financial institution operates with that level of public exposure. Regulators don't want everything revealed. They want controlled, selective visibility. Public chains simply can't provide this structure. At the same time, the tokenization market is growing at an incredible pace. Billions of dollars in RWAs have already been issued, and long-term forecasts point towards trillions. This means real capital is coming on chain, and the cost of mistakes is rising. Regulators are becoming clearer. Tokenization is welcome, but only when data confidentiality, investor protection, and jurisdictional rules are respected. Midnight fits these requirements perfectly by keeping sensitive information private while still preserving verifiable compliance. As more value is tokenized, the risks become more severe. A data leak can create legal penalties. A failed audit can destroy an entire RWA program. A front-running vulnerability can undermine trust in the asset itself. Traditional blockchains make these risks worse because their architecture forces everything into the open. Midnight eliminates these risks by giving institutions a safe way to operate without revealing their internal operations to the world. People often oversimplify the issue and say public chains are too transparent, but that's only the symptom. The deeper issue is that most chains were never designed to support confidentiality or regulated logic. They are built as open systems where everything is visible by default. That works for many use cases, but not for the RWAs. Midnight takes a different approach by embedding confidentiality directly into the chain's design, making privacy and compliance a native capability rather than an afterthought. So this leads us to the core solution. Midnight offers a structure where confidentiality, auditability, and automation coexist naturally. The chain provides privacy when institutions need it and transparency where regulators expect it. It doesn't try to hide everything or reveal everything. Instead, it gives builders precise control over what is public and what is protected. Now, let's look at how Midnight actually delivers confidentiality, because this is where the architecture becomes powerful. Midnight uses confidential smart contracts that process sensitive information inside the protected computation environment. When the contract evaluates compliance checks, eligibility rules, or internal business logic, it doesn't reveal the input data. Instead, it produces a cryptographic proof showing that the rules were followed correctly. This proof is sent to the public chain, where anyone can verify its correctness without learning anything about the underlying private data. Zero-knowledge proofs make this possible. They allow the system to confirm that the right conditions were met, such as passing KYC or meeting investment thresholds, without exposing the personal details behind those conditions. This approach gives institutions the privacy they need while still maintaining verifiable trust on-chain. In Midnight, confidentiality and transparency reinforce each other instead of conflicting. Midnight's confidential data model adds clarity and structure to this process. When teams design RWA workflows, they define which data must be public and which must stay private. So public data covers neutral information required for settlement or interoperability, such as token identifiers or final transaction outcomes. Private data covers everything sensitive, including investor identity, internal policies, deal structure, and compliance result. Midnight enforces this separation automatically. Private data never appears on the public ledger. Instead, it is encrypted and stored off-chain, and the smart contract publishes a proof showing that it processed the private data correctly. This allows institutions to keep sensitive information protected while giving regulators and auditors verifiable evidence that the correct rules were applied. The result is a clean, controlled flow of information where the blockchain sees only what it needs to see and institutions retain confidentiality where it matters. This architecture unlocks real-world institutional applications. Private funds, regulated debt instruments, tokenized real estate, trade finance, and compliance-bound digital assets all require selective disclosure. Midnight finally allows these use cases to operate on-chain without compromising privacy or regulatory alignment. To make it practical, consider a private investment fund. In a traditional blockchain environment, identities, amounts, and internal rules would become visible. Midnight solves this by processing everything confidentially. The fund's workflows, from subscriptions to redemptions to compliance decisions, operate privately, while the chain still records verifiable outcomes. Investors remain protected, fund managers stay compliant, and regulators receive proof-backed assurance. The difference between the old model and the Midnight model is dramatic. Instead of manual processes and scattered tools, institutions gain structured workflows and consistent rule enforcement. Instead of exposing sensitive logic, they maintain confidentiality. Instead of inconsistent documentation, they get a complete and verifiable audit trail. Midnight transforms tokenization from an experiment into a production-ready system. This is exactly why we built TMX Tokenize at Token Minds. TMX Tokenize takes Midnight's confidential architecture and turns it into a complete platform for issuing, managing, and scaling tokenized assets. It gives enterprises a trustworthy environment where confidentiality, security, compliance, and automation work seamlessly together. So to wrap up, the future of tokenization isn't just about bridging assets on-chain. It's about doing it in a way that respects confidentiality, satisfies regulators, and meets real enterprises' requirements. Cardano Midnight provides the missing architecture. TMX Tokenize operationalizes it, and Token Minds gives businesses the expertise to implement it with confidence. Thank you for watching. If you're ready to build compliant and confidential or RWA workflows, reach out to us. We'd love to help you bring the next generation of digital assets to life.